that's fine.
Yep, okay. So what I'm going to present today is actually the outcome of my 4 years of research for my PhD. And just before I came here 2 days ago, I got a message that my thesis was accepted. And I would like to say in that respect that I was building my theories standing on the shoulders of giants like Linda, Johan, Jennifer, lots of these people I quoted quite a bit in my work. And today I put it together so that I directly address the title of the conference, which not many people so far have done, although we're sort of talking to that general theme, but I'm actually looking specifically at the shape of human consciousness and how and the developmental trajectory. I'm looking at macro history, so I'm looking at a cross-disciplinary approach when I'm bringing together psychology, because my background is in psychology, sociology, system theory, spiral dynamics, and various other Eastern wisdom cultures as well. And I'm particularly going to focus on two new-ish concepts which I came up with, and it's neo-collectivist consciousness and the holarchic evolutionary model. Now, I came out of the assumption that we are in between something as far as consciousness is concerned, that Western society is in a crisis situation where, like, we had some sort of system which increasing number of people are not happy with. So where do we go next? And I looked at a social chain and macro history for guidance to see why we are where we are and where we are heading to. Some of you may know macro history is looking at various shapes of the development of societies, and it can be linear, cyclic, a pendulum spiral. There are other patterns too. So I'm particularly focusing on Sorkin's social and cultural dynamics. And for those of you who don't know, it's made up of epochs in every civilization's history from a macro history perspective. For Sorkin, it starts with ideational, which is spiritual, and just very quickly zip through it. We can have an example in medieval Europe, if we want to be Eurocentric, where spirituality was paramount and it was really governing day-to-day life. Then it sort of diminished, and the pendulum, which some people call this the pendulum theory, the pendulum swung the other way to the opposite direction, where you have the materialistic nature where spirituality is not so important, and these are the days we live in at present. Between every phase there is also a transitionary period which is marked by chaos and we don't know whether we're here or there, or what are we actually trying to achieve. And also in the middle of the pendulum there is a phase which is trying to integrate the best of the material and spiritual mindset, and that's called, Sorkin calls it the idealistic period. So it's the synthesis, and my assumption is that that's where we're heading, because we had the two extremes already, and there are, I saw indicators that yes, that's where we're heading as a Western civilization. So the pendulum swings back and forth as pendulums do. Why do they do that? Sorokin was wondering, he observed through 2,000 years of historic study that basically every civilization comes to its peak and then they cannot actually continue on the same pathway because they reach their limits, so that's the principle of limits. Now, when we look at a pendulum, as I mentioned before, it's swinging from one extreme to the other. There's a chaos period. So from this graphic understanding, I went for, in my research, I went for a stage where I was trying to figure out where we are at the moment and what's the next step in our evolution as Western society. So I played around with causal analysis, and from psychology I brought in some two very important concepts, which is collectivism and individualism. And when you look at societies from that perspective, that actually explains a lot about basic values and why people feel or act the way they do. Now, we're not going to go into the details, but later on you maybe can have a read if the slides are distributed. I don't know what the mechanism is. So basically, because I said, okay, we are in an in-between period, so what is an in-between between the collectivistic and individualistic mindset? And so I came up with this expression called neo-collectivism, because I actually saw more collectivistic features coming into being to counterbalance the overt individualistic mindset we have at present. Now, mindset, values, we can't go past Maslow. He's a classic. And on top of his triangle self-actualization is actually very similar to my collectivist consciousness, and including also the green area, of course. Now, Maslow's colleague, Claire Graves, developed a different system to look at evolution of the mind, societies as well as individuals. And he called it the emergent cyclical double helix model of adult biosocial system development. Now, this is quite a mouthful. So Cowan and Beck grabbed it and condensed down the title, but maybe expanded the content, and this model is applicable even in industry. So again, like we're looking at colors, which differentiate from one state from the other, but it's actually self-admitted that the colors don't mean anything. There's another model. I looked at Wilber's model of consciousness, which is extremely complex, as you can see, so we're not going into the details. But I really liked Barrett's stages of social development because he's actually going for a much more simple model, 7 stages, and he's basically explaining the levels of consciousness as an outcome of general development. Now, his model you can download. He's got some interesting questionnaires where you can figure out where you are at on those 7 stages and how you can transform yourself. So there's a cultural transformation tool, which some of it is free, but some people obviously make it into a career to go out to companies and make big money. So there are different stages you can get into it. Now, last but not least, I looked at Vedanta and the chakra system, which some of you might be familiar with. Now the other colors again, similar colors to spiral dynamics. However, the colors are very important, and you can come to me privately afterwards if you want to know more about the colors, but let's just say yes, they are important. And so I grabbed these colors and I developed a graphic demonstration of what this neo-humanist, the neo-collectivist rather mind would look like. And I call it the holarchic evolutionary model, because it is showing an evolution, but it is also, it's not hierarchical in that classical sense, that the higher stage is dominating the lower stage. It's based on the system theory and holons. So this is just a bit of explanation how holons work. And so you integrating every level has the same importance, and so they have equal value. And this can be, my model can be applied on a level of individual or societies as well. So what I'm looking at is to focus on where we should be at, according to my calculations, is the green area, and everything above that will be taking off and being very exciting. And I looked at other less well-known scholars for extra addition to how this would pan out. So as you can see, it's a holistic paradigm. I again based it on some other scholars' work, and I compared it with some other systems. Say on here on the left, you see my description of the model. That's Maslow's classic, how it actually relates. Some of the areas are overlapping. And spiral dynamics, a lot of it is actually fitting into the picture, but Barrett's model is actually probably the most similar to Ham as such. And so I'm putting out a question. What do you think human consciousness will look like in 2050? And obviously it depends on your background or inclination. Would it be following a linear path and end up something what's the amalgamation of all the previous things we've been through? Or is it a reaction to previous generations and it's swinging back and forward like a pendulum? Or is it a variation of prior history consciousness, like a spiral going higher and higher, basically cyclic and linear combined? So thank you very much, and I'm open for questions or suggestions, criticism, whatever.
Okay, thank you very much.